The snowball hit Marcus Hale in the side of the head before he even finished his thought. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. It was cold, sloppy, and humiliating. Snow slid down the collar of his thrift store parka, melted instantly against his neck, and made him gasp like a man waking from a bad dream. The laughter that followed, sharp, young, unfiltered, rang across the open field beside Cedar Ridge Community Center, echoing off vinyl-sided houses and bare winter trees. Somewhere nearby, a pickup truck struggled to start, its engine coughing against the January cold. Marcus stood frozen, one gloved hand half raised, coffee forgotten, dignity temporarily misplaced. This was not how he pictured his Saturday morning. 5 minutes earlier, he'd been thinking about overdue bills, the quiet stress of being 39 and newly unemployed, the particular shame of moving back into a small rental after losing the house he once believed proved he'd made it. Cedar Ridge, Ohio, his hometown, had welcomed him back with snow-packed streets, familiar faces, and the uncomfortable feeling that everyone remembered who he used to be. And now, apparently, it welcomed him back with snowballs. "Sorry, I swear that wasn't aimed at you," a teenage voice yelled. Marcus blinked snow from his eyelashes and turned toward the chaos. A group of kids, middle schoolers by the look of them, were mid-snowball fight, their boots leaving frantic tracks across the field. At the center stood Tyler Bennett, 15, lanky, red-cheeked, holding a snowball like evidence in a courtroom drama. "That one definitely was," Marcus said, deadpan. The kids froze. Silence fell in the uniquely American way small-town silence always does, brief, awkward, waiting for social rules to reassert themselves. Then Marcus laughed. It surprised everyone, including him. "Relax," he said, brushing snow from his shoulder. "If I was going to get hit by something today, at least it wasn't a bill collector." The kids burst into relieved laughter. Tyler grinned. "You wanna throw back?" Marcus looked down at the snow at his feet. Powdery, fresh, harmless. He hesitated. Then he bent down, scooped a snowball with the clumsy enthusiasm of someone who hadn't done this in years, and threw. It missed spectacularly. The snowball disintegrated midair, barely reaching its target, drawing a chorus of groans and cheers. And just like that, Marcus Hale, former operations manager, current life questioner, was part of something again. The narrator might say this was the moment winter stopped being an obstacle and started becoming a classroom. Because sometimes, the lesson doesn't arrive as advice. Sometimes, it arrives as a snowball to the head. Marcus didn't notice how cold his fingers were until they stopped hurting. That was the thing about winter in Cedar Ridge. It demanded your full attention whether you felt ready or not. The air sat heavy and metallic in his lungs as he joined the kids' chaotic rhythm, bending, throwing, ducking. Snowballs flew in uneven arcs, exploding against jackets, boots, the occasional unlucky face. Someone slipped and went down hard, laughing before anyone could worry. Another kid tried to build a defensive wall that immediately collapsed, earning applause like a failed magic trick. Marcus found himself laughing louder than anyone. It startled him. The sound came from deep, from a place he hadn't visited since before the layoffs, before the meetings where his name stopped being attached to plans and started being attached to severance packages. Laughter felt reckless now, like spending money he wasn't sure he still had. But it also felt right. "Hey, Mr. Tyler yelled, dodging a hit. "What's your name again?" "Marcus," he said, hurling a snowball that actually connected this time, splattering harmlessly against a tree trunk. "Marcus." Tyler pointed dramatically. "You're on our team now." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "I didn't agree to that." "You laughed," another kid, Sophie Klein, 12, bundled in a purple coat, said. "That's a binding contract." He shook his head, smiling. "Figures." Teams formed organically, the way communities always do when adults stop overthinking and kids stop waiting for permission. Snowbanks became fortresses. Trash can lids turned into shields. A middle-aged man walking his dog paused, watched for a moment, then joined in, launching a surprisingly accurate throw before retreating in triumph. Across the field, the Cedar Ridge Community Center loomed, brick exterior, banner flapping that read Winter Family Day. Marcus had almost forgotten why he'd come out here in the first place. Free coffee, cheap donuts, something to fill the hours so the silence of his apartment wouldn't swallow him. Instead, he was sweating under layers, breath fogging, heart pounding. Life, inconveniently, had shown up. Between volleys, Marcus noticed other adults gathering at the edges, parents, retirees, people with the particular posture of those deciding whether to engage or observe. Linda Park, who ran the local bakery, laughed as a snowball landed in her tote bag. James Holloway, former high school football coach, offered unsolicited tactical advice no one followed. Former line. James shouted. "No one listens to you anymore, coach." Someone yelled back. James grinned, unoffended. "That's how I know I'm retired." Marcus caught Tyler watching him during a lull, Snowball half formed in his hands. "What?" Marcus asked. Tyler shrugged. "You throw like someone who hasn't done this in a while." "That obvious?" "Yeah," Tyler said. "But you're trying." The words landed heavier than the snowballs ever could. Marcus nodded. "Guess I am." The fight escalated into something like organized chaos. Someone suggested objectives. Someone else suggested rules. None of it stuck. What stuck were the small moments. Sophie helping Marcus pack a better snowball, Linda handing out napkins, James tripping and getting pelted mercilessly by teenagers who'd waited years for revenge. Time moved strangely. The cold deepened. The sun climbed, pale and distant. At one point, Marcus slipped, landing hard on his back. For half a second, embarrassment flared, the old reflex, the fear of being the guy who couldn't keep up anymore. Then a dozen hands reached down. "Up you go," Linda said. "Careful, Marcus," Sophie added. "You're an asset now." Asset. The word echoed. He got up, snow clinging to him, laughing again. He felt ridiculous. He felt included. He felt, unexpectedly, useful. The narrator would note that this is where the metaphor sharpened. A man knocked down by forces beyond his control, lifted not by pride but by people. When the snowball supply dwindled and arms grew tired, someone called a truce. Steam rose from jackets as everyone drifted toward the community center doors, stamping snow from boots, carrying the shared glow of exertion and absurdity. Inside, warmth rushed them. The smell of coffee and sugar filled the air. A volunteer handed Marcus a paper cup without asking his name, like he belonged. He stood there, thawing, watching kids argue over who won. No one really cared. They'd all already won something else. Outside, snow continued to fall, quiet, steady, generous. And Marcus Hale, still brushing ice from his sleeves, realized that winter hadn't come to stop him. It had come to remind him how to move together. The snowball fight became a story before it became a lesson. By Monday morning, it lived in passing comments at the gas station, in photos posted to the Cedar Ridge Facebook group, in the bakery where Linda Park joked about charging extra for emotional snow damage. Marcus Hale heard his name more than he had in months, and each time it felt less like an accusation and more like an invitation. Winter in Cedar Ridge settled into its familiar rhythm. Snowplows scraped Main Street before dawn. Porch lights glowed against gray mornings. People dressed in layers not for fashion but for survival, work boots, knit caps, gloves mismatched from previous winters. Life continued, slower but steady. Marcus continued too. He started showing up. It began small. He helped shovel Mrs. Donnelly's driveway without being asked. He stayed late after community center events to stack chairs. He joined the morning coffee circle that gathered near the heat event inside the center, listening more than talking, absorbing stories about jobs lost and found, about kids leaving town and sometimes coming back. No one asked what he did for a living. That mattered. One afternoon, James Holloway cornered him near the bulletin board. "You ever think about helping with the youth program?" James asked, tapping a flyer. "Kids could use someone who doesn't pretend to have it all figured out." Marcus almost laughed. "That's basically my resume right now." "Perfect," James said. "You're hired. Volunteer salary is terrible, though. Working with the kids changed something fundamental." Marcus wasn't teaching strategy or discipline. Mostly, he was teaching how to lose without quitting, how to laugh when plans collapsed, how to pass the snowball instead of throwing it alone. Tyler listened more than he talked. Sophie argued passionately about fairness. They learned teamwork the way people always do, by needing each other. At home, Marcus reorganized his days. Mornings for job applications, afternoons for the community center, evenings for reflection. He kept a notebook now, filled with small observations. People work better when they feel seen. Losing alone hurts more than losing together. Winter exposes what matters. Opportunity arrived without ceremony. Linda Park mentioned that the bakery needed someone to manage early morning operations, temporary at first. Marcus said yes before fear could negotiate. He learned fast. Schedules, deliveries, people. It wasn't glamorous. It was honest. The paycheck was modest, but the pride was not. On the first heavy snowfall after his start date, the bakery stayed open late so people could warm up. Marcus watched strangers share tables, snow melting into puddles on the floor. He recognized the same dynamic from the snowball fight. chaos transforming into cooperation. Weeks later, Cedar Ridge hosted its annual winter festival. The same field where the snowball had first struck Marcus buzzed with activity. Lights hung from temporary poles. Music played. Kids raced across the snow, older residents stood wrapped in blankets, laughing. Someone handed Marcus a microphone. He hadn't prepared a speech. He didn't need one. Couple months ago, he said, voice steady, I got hit by a snowball I didn't see coming. Turns out, that's how a lot of life works. Laughter rippled. But that day, Marcus continued, I learned something important. You don't win winter by standing alone. You win it by leaning in. Applause followed, not thunderous, but real. As snow drifted gently around them, Marcus caught sight of Tyler laughing with Sophie, of Linda serving hot chocolate, of James watching with quiet pride. The narrator would say this is the payoff. Not success measured in money or titles, but in belonging, resilience, and shared effort. Because winter doesn't care how strong you are alone. It asks who you're willing to stand with. And sometimes, the lesson you need arrives exactly the way you didn't expect it, cold, sudden, and thrown by a kid who didn't mean any harm at all.
Like and subscribe if you want to be happy and motivate.